Hello students, welcome to class 11 biology. Today we are going to continue with chapter 8 in biozoology. So chapter 7 was circulatory system. We have learnt about the circulatory system in various organisms and how heart functions in human, origin of heartbeat and double circulation. Then we have learnt about the circulatory system disorders. So in the same way we will learn about excretion. Excretion is the elimination of waste material from the body. So in different organisms excretion occurs with the help of various excretory cells or excretory organ. In the case of human being, the major excretion is being done by kidneys. Okay, so that is what we are going to learn in detail, how the nitrogenous waste material is sent out with the help of the kidneys and what is the reabsorption process. Once the filtration occurs, reabsorption does also occur and elimination of this excretory material. Then we will also learn about the abnormalities, diagnosis and rectification for the diseases or disorders happening in excretory system. So we will learn about the excretion in different animals. In earliest animal forms, all were marine organisms. So they were having the cells, specialized cells for the purpose of excretion. So during the course of evolution, the tissue layers are being formed. Okay, so from the tissue layers, a few of the organs are also being formed wherein the role of excretion is taken up by those organs. The major purpose of this excretion is the osmoregulation, which in terms of the salt and water regulation. Osmoregulation is nothing but the salt and water regulation. Okay, so we have several organisms living in salt water or fresh water or in brackish water. What is brackish water? The place where the seawater and fresh water meets, there is a area that causes the brackish water. Okay, so animals could invade land during the course of evolution. They also produce the excretory material. Most of the animals, land animals, they have the kidneys which help in controlling the ion and water balance. Here ions are nothing but the salts, that is sodium ion, chlorine ion. Follow? So these are all the ions and it is along with the water it is being excreted and the water balance is also being done by the kidney. Animals depend on external tissues such as gills, skin, digestive mucosa to collectively regulate three homeostatic processes. They are osmoregulation, ionic regulation and nitrogen excretion. Osmotic regulation is the control of tissue osmotic pressure which acts as a driving force for movement of water across the biological membrane. Okay, so inside the body we have the tissues being covered by the membrane that is called as the biological membrane. Ionic regulation is the control of ionic composition of body fluid. Okay, so what are the body fluids? Blood, lymph, okay, intracellular fluid, extracellular fluid, intercellular fluid, intracellular fluid. These are all the different fluids in our body. They will have certain compositions to be followed. Okay, so whether these compositions are also maintained by the system. The process by which the body gets rid of this nitrogenous waste product by the process of protein metabolism is called excretion. Nitrogen excretion is a pathway by which animals excrete ammonia. Yes, so we have learnt in the first lesson itself that the animals can excrete nitrogenous waste in the form of ammonia, urea, uric acid. Yes, so based on that they are differentially named also. Do you remember ammonotelic, uricotelic, ureotelic, like that? That is what is explained here. The removal of ammonia and other metabolic alternatives such as urea, uric acid is linked to ionic and osmotic homeostasis. The word homeostasis means balancing in the body. Homeostasis means balance. So salt and water balance should be maintained in our body. Freshwater vertebrates maintain higher salt concentration in their body fluids. Okay, so freshwater should have the higher salt because they should not go without this salt. Salt also gives us energy. Marine vertebrates maintain low salt concentration because always the marine environment gives them the salt. Okay, so terrestrial animals have more water in their body than their surrounding, hence they tend to lose water by evaporation. Next we are coming to the definition of osmoconformers. Okay, please locate the word. Osmoconformers are able to change their internal osmotic concentration with the change in the external environment. That is the example mollusk and shark. So we have learned about the osmoconformers. Now osmoregulators maintain their internal osmotic concentration irrespective of their external osmotic environment. Okay, so whatever be the external condition, whether salt is more, whether water is more, but their internal environment is maintained. Depending on the ability to tolerate the changes in the external environment, animals are classified as stenohaline, euryhaline. So stenohaline can tolerate narrow fluctuation in the salt and water concentration. Euryhaline animals are able to adapt to the large variation among the salt and water concentration. So far we have learned 4 terms new for you: osmoconformer, osmoregulator, then stenohaline and euryhaline. Here we can see that the major nitrogenous waste products urea, uric acid and ammonia. Other waste products are trimethylamine oxide, okay, guanine, hippuric acid, allantoin, allantoic acid, ornithuric acid, creatinine, creatine, purine, pyrimidine, pterins. All these are the major nitrogenous waste products. So modes of excretion. So excretory system helps in collecting nitrogenous waste, expelling out the external environment. All the animals evolved. Okay, so they just have to get rid of all the waste material. Ammonia that should be excreted. Once it is formed, it should be excreted because it is poisonous. Okay, so the type of nitrogenous end product an animal excrete depends upon the habitat. What is habitat? Habitat is a place where the organism lives. That is what is called as the habitat. Ammonia requires large amount of water for its elimination, whereas uric acid, being the least toxic, can be removed with the minimum loss of water. Okay, so that can be stored in the body for considerable periods of time, as it is less toxic and less soluble in water than ammonia. Animals that excrete most of its nitrogen in the form of ammonia are called aminotels. Many fishes, aquatic amphibians and aquatic insects are aminotelic. Most of the fishes are aminotelic. Okay, so reptiles, birds, lance-tail, insects are the uric acid crystals with a minimum loss of water. So when you see the birds, they do not send out more of water. Okay, minimum water only will be there in the excretion. Terrestrial animals, less toxic urea. So urea is comparatively less toxic when it is compared with the ammonia. Uric acid are produced to conserve water. Mammals and terrestrial amphibians mainly excrete urea. They are called as ureotels. Earthworm, while soil, because it is in the soil, ureotels, and where the water are aminotels. Earthworms can live in water also. So such a kind of earthworms are aminotels. Okay. So the animal kingdom has wide range of excretory structure. Okay. So most invertebrates have simple tubular structure. Okay, simple tubes only, they are calling it as the kidneys. Because it is first form and it is not much developed, they are called as the primitive kidney. They are called as the protonephridia, metanephridia. So vertebrates have the complex tubular organ called as the kidney. Protonephridia are excretory structure with specialized cell in the form of the flame cell. Solenocytes in the case of Amphioxus. Nematodes have rennet cells. Metanephridia are in the case of the mollusk. Malpighian tubules are present in the most of the insects. As you know, we have learned in cockroaches. Adrenal glands are the green glands, perform excretory function in Crustacea. And then vertebrate kidney differs from the other taxa in relation to environmental conditions. Nephron is a structural and functional unit of kidney. Please underline this. Nephrons are the functional unit of kidneys. Reptiles have reduced glomerular or lack of glomeruli. Henley's loops hence produce very little hypotonic urine. Okay, so whereas our mammalian kidneys produce concentrated urine due to the presence of long Henley's loop. The loop of Henle of the nephrons have evolved to form hypertonic urine. Aglamular kidneys of marine fishes produce little urine that is isoosmotic to the body fluid. Amphibians and freshwater fishes lack Henley's loop, hence produce dilute urine. Okay, so coming to human excretory system, so it consists of the pair of kidneys, ureters, urinary bladder. Okay, so it is a kidney is a reddish brown color, bean shaped structure. They are lying superior to the lumbar region, on top of the lumbar region. Okay, so the last of the thoracic cavity. Okay, the right kidney is placed slightly lower. See, when you see the right kidney, it will be slightly lower to the left kidney. Why? Because of the presence of the liver. Okay, liver is occupying the space, so kidney will go down. Do you follow? Liver is occupying the abdominal region. It is the biggest structure in our stomach, the liver. When you touch and feel also right hand side, it will be solid. When you touch and feel your stomach on left hand side, it will be loose. Why? Because right hand side you have the presence of liver. Okay, because of this presence of liver, the right kidney goes down, slightly lower. Each kidney weighs about 120 to 170 grams. The outer layer of kidney is covered by 3 layers of supportive tissues, namely renal fascia, perirenal fat capsule and fibrous capsule. Okay, so there is a blood supply that is there for the kidneys. Okay, so from the aorta, the kidneys and urinary bladders are supplying with the blood vessels, and also the unwanted blood is being carried to the lungs by the vein. Okay, they are named as the renal artery and renal vein. First, the renal vein will carry the deoxygenated blood. It will go to the heart. From the heart, it will go to the lungs for purification. Yes. So you have the longitudinal section of the kidney showing the outer cortex and inner medulla and pelvic regions. Pyramids is a renal column of Bettini. The center is a inner concave surface and the kidney has notch called renal hilum through which the blood vessels enter. Okay, we can see with the help of the diagram here. So whichever is given in the diagram only is explained in that paragraph. The outermost layer is the capsule which is enclosing the kidney, and when you see the cross section of the kidney, you have the two portions. They are cortex and medulla. So cortex has got the nephron that is called as the cortical nephron, medulla. So these medullary region, they are darker compared to this cortex region. Okay, so in this cortex region, you have the presence of the renal column Bettini and renal pyramids. Then you have the presence of major calyx where the all these nephrons are just getting placed. So you can see juxtamedullary nephron is present in the medullary region. Follow? And also the area which is called as the hilum, through which the renal artery enter and renal veins send out the unwanted blood. Okay, so that is about CS of kidney. That is your homework. You have to see LS of kidney. Sorry, LS of kidney, this longitudinal section or transverse section, you can say it as. Okay, so as we were learning, I told you that the kidney has a basic functional unit called nephron. Each kidney has 1 million complex tubular structure called as the nephron. Each nephron consists of filtering corpuscle called renal corpuscle. Okay, the renal tubule opens into the long tubule called collecting duct. The renal tubule begins with a double-walled cup-shaped structure called as the Bowman's capsule. Okay, so which is enclosed by a ball of capillaries. What are capillaries? The small blood vessels, that is called as the capillaries, that delivers the fluid to the tubules. They are called as the glomerulus. The Bowman's capsule and the glomerulus together constitute renal corpuscle. The endothelium of the glomerulus has many pores. The external parietal layer of Bowman's capsule is made up of simple squamous epithelium. Okay, and you know what is squamous epithelium? The structure we have learnt in third lesson. Okay, so that is the structure of squamous epithelium you should recollect. And visceral layer is made up of epithelial cell called podocytes. Okay, so what is podocyte? The podocytes ends in foot processes which is clinging to the basement membrane of the glomerulus. The opening between the foot process are called as the filtration slits. So podocytes helps in this filtration process. Okay, so you can have a close look at this. It is a structure of nephron. The most important question, diagrammatic question is draw and label cortical nephron, draw and label juxtamedullary nephron. Okay, so general structure of nephron is given here. So the major difference between these two, cortical and juxtamedullary, is the presence of Henle's loop. The longer the Henle's loop, it is named as juxtamedullary nephron. Okay, shorter, it is called as the cortical nephron. So on the whole, when you see the structure, you can see how this is getting filtered. Blood is getting filtered. So whatever be the nitrogenous material, it has to get filtered. Okay, so and blood will enter through the afferent arteriole and it will get filtered through the glomerular filtrate. Then it will just follow the route shown here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. Once it is getting filtered, other blood other than the required blood, whichever is got filtered, that is fine. Extra other blood will be there, no? That will go out through efferent arteriole. Follow? So first it will enter through the afferent arteriole. It will get filtered. After filtration, the material, the blood will go out through the efferent arteriole. Okay, so you have the presence of the Bowman's capsule in which the capillary bed is present. Why it is called as capillary bed? Because it is a bunch of blood vessels. Okay, so then this, after this filtration, this follows the path 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. Then it will just come out through the collecting duct. Okay, many nephrons together, collecting duct, it forms the, it will get connected to the urinary bladder further. Okay, so like this we have the presence of the cortical nephron and juxtamedullary nephron based on their position. Okay, the size of the Henle's loop changes. Okay, so the major role is to filter the blood. The renal tubule consists further to form the proximal convoluted tube and it is followed by U-shaped loop called as the Henle's loop. Okay, so that is what is described, and then the ascending limb continues as a highly coiled tubular region called distal convoluted tube. So proximal convoluted tube, Henle's loop and distal convoluted tube. These are all the areas of the nephrons. When you want to know about the nephron, you should know what is Bowman's capsule, what is capillary bed, what is Henle's loop, what is proximal convoluted tube, what is distal convoluted tube. Okay, so the renal tubules, proximal convoluted tube and distal convoluted tube of nephron are situated in the cortical regions of kidney, whereas loop of Henle is in the medullary region. Can you imagine? A part is there in cortex and a part is there in medulla. Okay, so then we have this, some of the nephrons have very long loop of Henle. They will run deep into the medulla and are called as juxtamedullary nephron. Okay, so you can see here capillary bed. Why? Because it is just highly supplied with the blood vessel. Okay, so first capillary bed of the nephron is the glomerulus and the other is the peritubular capillary. The glomerular capillary bed is different from the other capillary bed in that it is supplied by the afferent and drained by the efferent arteriole. The efferent arteriole that comes out of the glomerulus forms a fine capillary network around the renal tubule called the peritubular capillaries. The efferent arteriole serving the juxtamedullary nephron forms a bundle of long straight vessel called vasa recta, runs parallel to the loop of Henle. Vasa recta is absent in reduced cortical nephron. Okay, so mechanism of urine formation. The nitrogenous waste formed as a result of breakdown of amino acid. Okay, that will be converted to urea in the liver. See, please note, urea is formed in the liver. Urea is formed in the liver, or otherwise urea cycle happens in the liver. It is not in the kidney. It is a common mistake to note that the urea formation occurs in the liver only. Okay, so don't make mistake in that. So ornithine cycle or urea cycle, that is happening in the liver. Glomerular filtrate, how it is formed? Blood enters the kidney from renal artery into the glomerulus. Okay, so blood is composed of large quantities of water, colloidal protein, sugar, salt, nitrogenous end product, etc. First step in the urine formation is the filtration of the blood that takes place in the glomerulus. This is called as the glomerular filtration and it is a passive process. What is meant by passive process? Energy is not required. That is what is called as the passive process. If energy is required for particular process, it is called as the active process. The fluid that leaves the glomerular capillary and enters the Bowman's capsule is called as glomerular filtrate. The glomerular membrane has a large surface area and more permeable to water, and small molecule present in the blood plasma. Blood enters glomerulus faster with a great force. Okay, so blood has to enter through the great force so that the filtration will occur. So for this to have a great force, it will have more of pressure, blood pressure. Okay, so then this force is because of the difference in size of the afferent and efferent arteriole. So afferent arteriole is wider than the efferent arteriole. Okay, because wider means more of blood will come and going out through the small blood vessel. Do you follow? So the bigger blood vessel, the blood comes in and it is going out through the smaller blood vessel. So the pressure will be maintained because of large quantity of blood there. Okay, so that the filtration process occur. So kidney produces about 180 liters of glomerular filtrate in 24 hours. The molecule such as water, glucose, amino acid, nitrogenous substances, all these things are passing from the blood into the glomerulus. Molecules larger than 5 nanometer are banned from entering the tubule. Okay, so they cannot go through that tubule. Glomerular pressure is chief force that pushes water and solute out of the blood and across the filtration membrane. The glomerular blood pressure is much higher than it in other capillary beds. The two opposing forces are contributed by plasma protein in the capillaries. These include colloidal osmotic pressure and capsular hydrostatic pressure due to the fluids in the glomerular capsule. The net filtration pressure of 10 millimeter mercury is responsible for the renal filtration. So you can see here how this net filtration pressure, glomerular hydrostatic pressure minus colloidal osmotic pressure plus capsular hydrostatic pressure. Okay, so when you have the pressure only, there will be a filtration process occurring. You can see that 10 millimeter mercury pressure is there, so that there is a filtration occurring. The effective glomerular pressure of 10 millimeter mercury results in ultrafiltration. The glomerular filtration rate is the volume of filtrate formed per minute in all nephron. Okay, glomerular filtration rate. So what does it mean? With reference to time. In a minute, how much is filtered? Follow? So from by the all nephrons of the kidney. In adults, GFR is approximately about 120 to 125 milliliter per minute. Blood from glomerulus is passed out through the efferent arteriole. The smooth muscles of efferent arteriole contract, resulting in vasoconstriction. Okay, so the glomerular filtrate is similar to blood plasma, except that there are no plasma protein. In cortical nephron, blood from efferent arteriole flows into the peritubular capillary bed and enters the venous system. Okay, and which is system carrying with it recovered solute and water from interstitial fluid and surrounds the tubule. So the what is the quantity, concentration in blood and concentration in the glomerular filtrate is given. So comparing these two value, you know how much is getting filtered. Okay, and it whichever is not filtered, it is sent back to the blood again. Okay, so that is how this is happening. As I told you in the beginning, once the filtration is happening, reabsorption. See, once the filtration is happening, there could be a chance, okay, for the whichever is wanted is also getting filtered. That can be reabsorbed. This involves the movement of the filtrate back into the circulation. The volume of filtrate per day is around 170 to 180 liter, and the urine released is around 1.5 liter per day. That is, nearly 99% of the glomerular filtrate has to be reabsorbed by the renal tubules. This is called as the selective reabsorption. Reabsorption takes place by tubular epithelial cells in different segments of nephron by active transport or passive transport, diffusion and osmosis. So how it is happening in proximal convoluted tubule? Glucose, lactate, amino acid, sodium ion and water in the filtrate is reabsorbed in PCT. Sodium is reabsorbed by active transport through sodium-potassium pump. Okay, small amounts of urea and uric acid are also reabsorbed. Descending limb of Henle's loop is permeable to water due to the presence of aquaporine, but not permeable to the salt. Water is lost in the descending limb. Okay, so sodium ions gets concentrated in the filtrate. So ascending limb of Henle's loop is impermeable. They will not allow the water, but permeable to the solutes. What are these solutes? Sodium, chlorine and potassium ions. As you know, ions are the charged particles. Okay, so that can move. The distal convoluted tubule recovers water and secretes potassium into the tubule. Sodium, chlorine and water remains in the filtrate of the DCT. Most of the reabsorption from this point is dependent on the body's need and is regulated by the hormone. Reabsorption of bicarbonate, what is bicarbonate ion? HCO3. Okay, HCO3 is bicarbonate. Takes place to regulate blood pH. Okay, so the blood pH has to be maintained. It should not be acidic or it should not go much alkaline also. So homeostasis of potassium ion and sodium ion in the blood is also regulated in this region. Okay, so then the collecting duct. So first we have seen the blood is entering into through the afferent arteriole. More of blood is entering, less of blood is coming out through efferent arteriole, so that the pressure is created. How much pressure is created? 10 millimeter mercury. So much of pressure is there, it is getting filtered. Okay, and then how the filtration is happening? Then certain area water is getting filtered and iron is getting filtered. After the filtration process, reabsorption occurs. After reabsorption, it is collected. That is what is called as the collecting duct. Is permeable to water, secretes potassium and reabsorbs sodium to produce concentrated urine. The change in permeability to water is due to the presence of number of water permeable channel called aquaporine. So tubular secretion substance such as hydrogen ion, potassium ion, ammonia ion, creatinine and organic acid move into the filtrate from the peritubular capillaries into the tubular fluid. Most of the water is absorbed in the proximal convoluted tubule and sodium is exchanged for water in the loop of Henle. Hypotonic fluid enters the distal convoluted tubule and substances such as urea and salt pass from peritubular blood into the cells of DCT, that is distal convoluted tubule. The urine excreted, that is containing both filtrate and secreted substances. Once it enters the collecting duct, water is absorbed and concentrated hypertonic urine is formed. For every hydrogen ion secreted into the tubular filtrate, a sodium ion is absorbed. So one hydrogen ion is given out and sodium ion is absorbed. Okay, so the hydrogen ion secreted combines with the bicarbonate ions and it is fixed as H2CO4 plus. Okay, H2PO4 plus and ammonia ion respectively. Hence, the hydrogen ions get fixed in the fluid and reabsorption of the hydrogen is prevented. Okay, so then we have the formation of concentrated urine. Formation of the concentration urine accomplished by the kidney using counter current mechanism. The major function of Henle's loop is to concentrate sodium ion and chlorine ion. There is low osmoregularity near the cortex and high osmolarity towards the medulla. This osmolarity in the medulla is due to the presence of solute transporters and is maintained by the arrangement of loop of Henle connecting duct and vasa recta. This arrangement allows the movement of solutes from the filtrate to the interstitial fluid at the transition between the proximal convoluted tubule and the descending loop of Henle, and osmolarity of the interstitial fluid is similar to that of the blood, about 30 millimeter osmotic regulation. Okay, so this ascending and descending limbs of Henle create a counter current multiplier, that is interaction between flow of filtrate through the limbs of Henle. Okay, that is juxtamedullary nephron by active transport. So as I told you, what is passive transport? Passive does not require energy. Active transport requires energy. Okay, the Henle of juxtamedullary nephron creates the medullary osmotic gradient. As the fluid enters the descending limb, water moves from the lumen into the interstitial fluid and the osmolarity of the interstitial fluid decreases to counteract this dilution, and regions of ascending limb actively pumps solute from the lumen into the interstitial fluid. Okay, so interstitial fluid and the osmolarity increases to about 1200 osmotic concentration in the medulla. This mismatches between the water and salt that creates the osmotic gradient. What is gradient? Difference in the concentration. Okay, the osmotic gradient is also due to the permeability of the collecting duct to urea. So this vasa recta maintains the medullary osmotic gradient through the counter current exchange. Okay, so how this counter current exchange? By the passive, what is passive transport? Without the utilization of energy. Okay, so this exchange of, whereas the vasa recta preserves the medullary gradient while removing reabsorbed water and solute. This system does not produce an osmotic gradient but protects the medulla by the removal of excess salt from the interstitial fluid. What is interstitial fluid? The fluid that is present in between the cells. Okay, and removing the reabsorbed water. The vasa recta leave the kidney at the junction between the cortex and medulla. The interstitial fluid at this point is isoosmotic to the blood. What isoosmotic means? The similar concentration of salt and water. When blood leaves the efferent arteriole and enters vasa recta, the osmolarity in the medulla increases. Okay. So we have the results, it results in passive uptake of solutes and loss of water in descending vasa recta. As the blood enters the cortex, the osmolarity in the blood decreases and the blood loses the solute and gains water. At the final stage in collecting duct to form the concentrated urine, human kidneys can produce urine nearly 4 times concentrated than the initial filtrate formed. So now we have the regulation of kidney. See, regulation we have been learning from the beginning. For respiration, how it is being regulated with the help of the brain. Likewise, we have the regulation of kidney. So kidney's function is also being regulated by the hormones. So you can see here ADH and diabetes insipidus. The functioning of the kidney is efficiently monitored and regulated by hormonal feedback control mechanism. Okay, so which is being done by the hypothalamus and juxtaglomerular apparatus. They can to certain extent the heart. Osmoreceptors in hypothalamus are activated by change in blood volume. The blood fluid volume and ionic concentration. When there is a change in the blood ion concentration, how there will be a change in the blood ion concentration? If you are not drinking so much of water, the blood becomes thicker. Follow water is not entering into the blood, so the blood becomes thicker. Okay, or you are taking more of water, it is becoming diluted, which needs the filtration. That is what is meant here. Okay, so here the hypothalamus is activated by change in the blood volume, blood fluid volume and ionic concentration. Where there is excessive loss of fluid from the body, where there is increase in blood pressure and osmoreceptor from the hypothalamus respond by stimulating the neurohypophysis to secrete antidiuretic hormone, okay, or vasopressin. The antidiuretic hormone helps reabsorption of water. This is important for 1 mark. Antidiuretic hormone helps in reabsorption of water. Okay, so then we have the ADH facilitates reabsorption of water by increasing the number of aquaporins in the cell surface membrane of distal convoluted tubule and collecting duct. This increase in aquaporins causes the movement of water from the lumen into the interstitial cell, thereby preventing excess loss of water by diuresis. When you drink excess of water or your favorite juice, osmoreceptors of hypothalamus no longer stimulates the release of antidiuretic hormone. It is suppressed from neurohypophysis. And aquaporins of the collecting ducts move into the cytoplasm. This is making the collecting duct impermeable to the water and excess fluid flows down, collecting the duct without any loss of water. Hence, dilute urine is produced to maintain the blood volume. So, dilute urine will be produced to maintain blood volume. When you are drinking more and more of water, what will happen? The blood will become more dilute. To avoid that, the water will be expelled out. Vasopressin secretion is controlled by positive negative feedback mechanism. Defects in antidiuretic hormone receptor and inability to secrete antidiuretic hormone leads to a condition called as diabetes insipidus. What is diabetes insipidus? The symptoms are excessive thirst, excretion of large quantities of dilute urine, resulting in dehydration and fall in blood pressure. Okay, so these are all will happen when there is no secretion, proper secretion of the antidiuretic hormone. Renin-angiotensin juxtaglomerular apparatus is a specialized tissue in the afferent arteriole and nephron consists of macula densa and glandular cells. The macula densa cells sense distal tubule flow and efferent arteriole diameter, whereas the glandular cells secrete the enzyme called renal. A fall in glomerular blood flow, glomerular blood pressure, glomerular filtrate rate can activate this filtration process JG cells to release renin, which converts the plasma protein to angiotensinogen. So, and when it is ending with a GEN, it is inactive form of enzyme. Okay, so the schematic representation tells you the various hormones in the regulation of body fluid. Okay, so then we have the angiotensin converting enzyme. Okay, so because it is produced in the form of angiotensinogen inactive form, it should be activated. Okay, so angiotensin converting enzyme ACE converts angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2. Angiotensin 2 stimulates the sodium reabsorption in the proximal convoluted tubule by vasoconstriction. And angiotensin 2 acts as a different sites such as heart, kidney, brain, adrenal cortex, blood vessels, and it stimulates the adrenal cortex to secrete aldosterone, which causes reabsorption of sodium potassium excretion and the absorption of water from distal convoluted tubule and collecting duct. This increases the glomerular blood pressure, glomerular filtrate. This complex mechanism is generally known as renin-angiotensin aldosterone system. Renin-angiotensin aldosterone system shows schematic representation of the various hormone in the regulation of body fluid concentration. Atrial natriuretic factor, that is excessive stretch of cardiac atrial cells causes the increase in blood flow. So in this condition, it travels to the kidney where the increase in sodium excretion and increase in blood flow to the glomerulus acting an afferent glomerular arteriole and vasodilator on efferent arteriole. So as the vasoconstrictor. It decreases aldosterone release from the adrenal cortex and also decreases the release of renin, thereby decreasing angiotensin 2. ENF acts angiotensically to the renin-angiotensin system, aldosterone and vasopressin. Next, coming to the topic micturition, this is the process of release of urine from the bladder is called as the micturition. Okay, so micturition is a term important for 2 mark question. So urine formed by the nephrons is ultimately carried to the urinary bladder where it is stored till it receives a voluntary signal from the central nervous system. Okay, so then once the stimulus is produced by the parasympathetic nervous system, the contraction of the bladder occurs and the urine is released. That process is called as the micturition. An adult human averagely excretes about 1 to 1.5 liters urine per day. Okay, so change in the diet may cause pH to vary between 4.5 to 8, which has got and the characteristic odor for the urine, and the color is yellow. Okay, so yellow color is due to the presence of the pigment called urochrome. Please note the color of the urine is due to the presence of urochrome pigment. So and an average about an average about 25 to 30 grams of the urea is excreted per day. And various metabolic disorders connecting with this excretory organ, role of other organs in excretion, and what is about the failure and disorders of the excretory system. All those things we will learn in next class. Your homework is to draw longitudinal section of kidney with the labeling and juxtamedullary nephron and cortical nephron. Okay, so you please take notes while you are listening to the class and have your book with you, and wherever I say important point, please underline and learn those things for your examination. Okay, thank you students, meet you in the next class. Thank you.